Joe spent much of his free time at the Shell House, exercising and tossing a football around with Johnny White, Chuck Day, Roger Morris, and Shorty Hunt. He found another friend in Stub McMillan, the gangly number 5 man from the previous year's JV boat. Joe would often linger at the Shell House late into the evening, and one night he came out of the steam room to find Stub pushing a broom. When Joe realized Stub was working at the Shell House janitor, he sauntered over and stuck out his hand. As they talked, Joe confided what he had long kept a secret for the other boys. He told Stub that he was now a janitor too, working a late night shift at the YMCA. When the varsity practice began, the previous season's rivalries and hard feelings and insecurities erupted again. There was no fiery speech from Coach Ulbrichson this time. There was no need for it. Everyone knew exactly what the stakes were this year. Ulbrichson gathered all the boys on the ramp, straightened his tie, and announced that there would be no set boats. He was going to mix-match the boys until he found the ideal crew. Until then, it was going to be every man for himself. For the next few weeks, Joe bumped back and forth between the 3rd and 4th boats. He was rowing hard, but his spirits were starting to flag. He missed the camaraderie that had grown among his classmates after 2 years of rowing together. He missed Shorty Hunt sitting behind him whispering, "Don't worry, Joe, I've got your back," whenever Ulbrichson yelled at him. He missed gruff Roger Morris, who had rarely said a word but was always there for him. Joe hadn't really thought before about how much it mattered to him that those two fellows were in the boat with him, but it turned out that it didn't matter a lot. He had the same feeling every time he watched his Grand Coulee buddy, Johnny White, sweep by him in another boat, part of something else now, part of a crew of boys dead set on defeating him. When he was abandoned in Sequim, he promised himself he'd never depend on anyone else, not even on Joyce, for his happiness or his sense of who he was. Now he began to see that he'd allowed himself to do exactly that, with the usual painful results. He hadn't expected it. He hadn't prepared for it. And now the ground seemed to be shifting under him in an unpredictable way. Then, just a few days into the season, the ground shifted again. Joe learned that Thula was dead, killed by an infection. He was numb. He didn't know what to think or feel. Although she'd abandoned him and turned him away, Thula had been the closest thing to a mother that he had known since he was 3. There had been at least some good times back in Spokane when they had all sat together on the big swing in the backyard. Over the years, he had wondered what he might have done to make things better between them. Now he would never know. Mostly, though, he worried about his father, and even more his half-siblings would cope with the change. The next morning, Joe went by his father's house. He found his father and kids sitting at the picnic table on a soggy lawn. They talked for a while about Thula's life. Joe told his father how sorry he was. Finally, Harry turned abruptly to Joe and said, "Son, I've got a plan. I'm going to build a house where we can all live together. As soon as it's done, I want you to come home." Joe sat at the table staring at his father. He did not know what to make of the proposal. He did not know if he could trust the man. He stammered out a vague answer. They talked some more about Thula. Joe told the kids that he would be coming by more often to keep them company from now on. But he drove back to the YMCA that night, not sure what to do. Slowly, his confusion turned to anger, which gave way again to confusion and then anger all again. All of it washing over him in the waves.